the yellow flag does not mean the same thing in road course racing. There's a lot of extra things that, unless you've like been around it, you might not know. And so I felt like there was a lot of like technical stuff with, comp school that I had to understand, and I had to like know the rule book kind of in and out.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. If you don't follow the Blind Apex Podcast or SimSeats on YouTube, you should do that now because we're recording live in video and audio here at the SimSeats. What is this? Headquarters, the showroom, and today the studio. On this episode of the Blind Apex Podcast, we're going to hear a great story and hopefully some tips on how to get our sim racing skills up to par and how they translate to being on track. Joining me, sim racer, 3-time arena racing youth champ, freshly minted NASA rookie, Garrett Manes. Welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you having me.
So it's probably a week or so after the eNASCAR Coke Championship, and I saw your name pop up in that race.
Yeah. So, I was sitting there practicing for qualifying pre-race, and had a bunch of people texting me. They're like, "Oh, they're doing a thing on the pre-race show. They're talking about you." So it's pretty cool to have them do a piece on that, and hopefully my name came up a lot in the race too.
It did on my end. I saw you. They highlighted you a couple times during the race. So if you haven't checked that out, you probably should. How did you get into sim racing? Like legitimate sim racing?
Yeah. So I started like sim racing. The only reason I ever got into it was because like the people that I was racing against in real life were probably getting 3 to 4 times as many races just during the summer. So I really couldn't afford to like go out there and race 10 races a year, let alone, 60 in just the summer months. And so to be able to like compete and keep up from a competitive side and like get the experience I needed, I got on the sim. And that was kind of like just used as a training tool, get me a little bit of experience. I was having fun with it, but I wasn't really trying to do anything professional, right? It was purely for training. And then I was on there, probably 3 or 4 years. I had a NASCAR driver, Ray Black Jr. actually, give me an opportunity in a pro truck. And that was like my first big car experience. This first time I'd actually been racing something that was full size. And the only experience with that I'd ever had was on the sim. Like, knowing where the right side of your car is. Only thing I had ever done was sim racing for that. But that group that I raced with, and a lot of those guys, I got invited to race NASCAR leagues with them after that. Started, screwing around with the NASCAR cars on iRacing. And basically from there, started getting connected with people that are interested in racing NASCAR stuff. And I had people just poking me. They're like, "Hey, you should go for pro. You should go for pro," which I really did not like have any real intention of doing at any point. But I ended up making it on my second attempt through road to pro, and I've been in the Coke Series ever since.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you needed to supplement your regular racing. Where did your motorsports passion and career really start?
So my dad did go-karting for 23 years, and that was like he kind of made a career and a business around, go-kart racing. And so for me, I think the opportunity when he actually got a sponsorship, and that sponsorship carried me to, run 3 years in the arena racing. That's where, I won my first 3 championships. And that was a fully sponsored ride. Mm-hmm. Without that, I don't think I would have ever raced. Like from a family side, that wasn't something we could afford. Right. But that, gave me the opportunity to get out there and race. And they kind of, they continued to sponsor up through the ranks. I got to do some other stuff. And my dad knew a lot of people that had helped him in racing that ended up helping me in racing. And that made a big difference for my career. Just kind of gave me a jump start.
For sure. any help that a racer gets is definitely going to help them get their career moving if they want a career in it, or even get their hobby moving. So that's awesome that you got that opportunity. And then, so to supplement your race schedule, you were simming, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much year round, you can sim, around
there's no
here.
off season.
Yeah. Racing, stops around here as soon as it starts getting cold. And, when you're on the sim, like there's some very competitive leagues that are still going on in the off season because literally everyone has nothing else to do. That's, from, the middle of the U.S. up. Like everybody's, putting the race cars away for the winter. So, you get to race with pretty much everybody in the short track scene, or in, you get some NASCAR drivers that even hop on there and like are staying in it in the off season. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, even the California guys have to take the middle of the summer off because it's too hot. So everybody sort of has an off season, and you might as well supplement your time somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that one of the big things for me with sim racing that helped is I'm not just, I wasn't just running short track cars or just running NASCAR. To be honest with you, like when I was younger, in high school, for example, like I had a lot of time on my hands. So I might get bored of just running, the truck this week. I'd be like, let's see if we can get around the Nürburgring in a Porsche. You start learning tracks that you would, not expect to be running anytime soon. You just, want to get experience at different tracks and learn, different cars. And you find yourself running things like rallycross, which I never thought I would do, but that's actually the first pro series I got into. Totally off topic, but that is like what probably led me into professional sim racing truly. Is I got into it. I picked it up pretty quick. I was around a good group of guys that all had the same mindset. We want to do, the pro series. And so I learned the rallycross tracks. I learned the techniques, and, moved up to the pro series on that side. And basically that was like the branch between like, just having car control and like learning road course racing at the same time, because there's a lot of, tarmac sections. You have to be good on the brakes. You have to be able to, kind of finesse the car around the corners. So it's the furthest thing from oval racing, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Maybe King of the Hammers is the only other thing farther away, but they're pretty close. So let's talk about your sim setup that you're using. How did you evolve it? Where'd you start?
I started at a desk, and I was too short to actually be able to reach the floor from a folding chair. So I had my pedals on a shelf of this desk, and then the monitor, it was just a single screen. Definitely not positioned where it should be. Definitely not an accurate field of view. I was sitting in the back seat. Had no idea what I was doing for setting this up. But then I had, I want to say my wheel was just clamped to the desk. I don't think it was on the keyboard tray. I'm pretty sure I was smarter than that. But like, I remember it sliding off all the time. Like I'd be racing, wow. And I remember this distinctly. I was running the Nürburgring, and it came off in my lap while I'm driving, and I'm just like, what do we do? Like, somebody help me put this back on. But yeah, it's like, I started basically with the bare minimum. I mean, that's like a $250 setup. If you've got the computer and monitor already, like that is as cheap as it gets, really. And, I was on that for probably a year and a half, 2 years. Then I got a rig. I started, getting triple monitors and relatively basic equipment still. Like I didn't really graduate from Logitech until I was almost to the Pro Series. I think I started getting like load cell pedals and like some nice equipment when there was actually like, oh, I'm doing this at a high level. I should probably get higher level equipment and see if it helps. But from there, I mean, once I started working at SIMSEATS, it was like, oh, this equipment's really nice. Maybe I should get this.
Yeah. So what's your current rig that you're racing in the Pro Series with?
So I have a SimSeat now, and, I basically like, it's not any specific package, but when people like, I stream. So my computer doesn't really make sense for the configuration that I'm going with. It's way overkill, but I want to, for the longest time, the stream looked better than what I saw. Because like, if you're spending like $5,000 on a computer, for example. You want to actually see the quality on your end, but what was happening was I was doing all these different camera angles. I was doing, the highest quality I could for the stream, and then I wasn't seeing the quality. So I wanted to make sure, with my most recent PC that I was like, this is like, I'm going to see the quality, stream's going to see the quality, is all around like better experience for everybody. But I have essentially like something between the competition and pro package.
Okay.
Like I have the best equipment that you can buy that's not like just diving headfirst in the deep end and like, buying the things you don't need. Like I felt like I got everything from a competitive side that gives me the real feel and gives me like something that's going to translate to real life. But I also have, the extra features that I will use if I go run IndyCar or if I'm running, Porsche Cup and we're doing a standing start. Like I've got dual clutch paddles and stuff like that on my wheels. So all of the equipment from the load cell pedals, having the dampers on there to make it feel more real on the pedals, that was a game changer. Got the direct drive, so I feel all the, I can feel the curbs. I can feel when the car unloads in the middle of the corner. It's one of the things like when you step back, I've driven on a Logitech wheel, like what I started on recently, and you cannot drift on that. You have to like be so hyper focused on what's going on and use like, it's almost all visual and audio. Like you hear, how the revs are, you can see on the screen how your car is pointed, but you really can't feel what's going on. But the higher force feedback direct drives that are out there now, like, if you just jump up to the Logitech Pro, you can drift. All of a sudden you can feel when the weight transfers and you can kind of just hold the angle where you want to. And that kind of car control, like, translated into real life, because those sensations when you get in the car, like let's say you're going up the S's at VIR, when you sling it back to the left going into 10, the car kind of unloads a little bit as you come over the crest, and it feels the exact same on the sim. Like it's familiar. It doesn't feel like you were just learning the points. You were learning the sensation that you're going to get too.
The steering wheel feedback.
Exactly. And so that's the kind of equipment that I'm using today. And it's like everything, there's not really a huge learning curve. Like you just get out there and it's almost, I feel like I apply the same amount of brake. The weight in the steering wheel is the same. Like all of that stuff makes it to where it's not a very difficult transition.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the Logitech belt-driven stuff is good for a while, but if you want it to translate to racing, you're going to have to step up to at least the direct drive. But let's talk about how you decided to transition back, I guess, to wheel. So yeah, in 2020, actually, I think was the last time that I drove a car, and it kind of got to the point where, one, the series that I was running, it was the summer shootout at Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So we were racing on Tuesday nights, which if you pay attention to the timing of the Coke races, that doesn't work very well. It was basically directly overlapping. I got very familiar with the SimSeat very quickly because I was tearing it down every Tuesday and taking it to the hotel in Charlotte, setting it up, and racing directly after my real life race. So I had like the real race, and then I had the sim race directly after that I had to like rush back to the hotel to run. So I got very efficient at tearing this thing down and rebuilding it in the hotel and then doing it all again, because then I ran Rallycross, which was Wednesdays. So I had to literally tear it down Tuesday night and rebuild it at my house on Wednesday morning. But yeah, so that, basically I took a 3 or 4 year break from that, because to jump up to the next level, the cost associated for oval racing was just kind of outrageous, and not like for me to go out there and compete and to win. I knew the amount of money that I would have to bring would be a little bit more than like was going to be sustainable. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to just go out there and putt around. I'm not really going to be happy with the top 5 finish when I felt like, I could have potentially won the race. And so I started doing road course on the sim not too long ago. Like I've been doing the endurance racing for, a few years, but I started like actually doing more road course racing and focusing on like learning the American tracks and tracks that I potentially would race in real life. And, just recently I got the opportunity to drive the SimSeats Spec E30. This was just, a track day. And I had really never
been on a road course before. I'd done like one day in a kart, like a proper race kart, but that was my first experience and I was hooked right there. Like how everything translated made it to where I was comfortable right away. And I think VIR is probably one of the best tracks to start at if you know the course, because it's a ton of fun. Like even if you're not out there racing, the track's fun. So I think that was, kind of the spark I needed to get back into it. And after riding along with Zach and like actually getting all the points that I needed, because there were some sections that I just didn't understand how I was supposed to take them. Mm-hmm. After riding along, like game changer. All of a sudden I felt like I knew what I needed to do. And so I got a few opportunities to drive out there and, then obviously bought the Spec E30 and took it out to Summit Point recently.
Yeah. So let's talk about that Summit Point trip. You had to go through comp school, which isn't always easy, but apparently Zach is meticulous about keeping the car together or having you keep the car together. So you weren't going to have any problems. I think that's a key, is to have a reliable car at comp school so you can concentrate on everything else. But let's talk about that weekend and what came out of it.
Yeah. So to what you just said, like, Zach definitely helped a lot with that, because if I had to worry about the car and comp school, it would have been a lot for sure. So that was a big help. The biggest thing for me with comp school, I've done competitive oval racing and I have years of experience there. And it's not that I forgot anything. It's just the yellow flag does not mean the same thing in road course racing. There's a lot of extra things that, unless you've like been around it, you might not know. And so I felt like there was a lot of like technical stuff with, comp school that I had to understand, and I had to like know the rule book kind of in and out to be able to, to pass that. And so it was good for me to go through that, because that was kind of my biggest concern. I was like, if I race, like, I feel like there's so many things that I've just never experienced, in oval racing, for example, you usually have a spotter. Mm-hmm. And so if the caution's out, you're not looking at the flag stand. Somebody just tells you the caution's out. You look at the caution lights, like you kind of get the cue that you're supposed to slow down. And it's pretty straightforward. Caution's out, slow down, you're going to catch the pace car. Obviously, in road course racing, it could just be warning you that there's a car, that's slow on the track or that's wrecked on the track. It might not mean there's a pace car. So you shouldn't just stop, basically.
Yeah, in iRacing, the screen warns you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The virtual spotter tells you.
And in iRacing, the only thing that it really means is you're not allowed to pass in that section if you're road course racing. Mm-hmm. There's not normally full course cautions in iRacing for road course racing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's pretty wild, like, what the transition is in real life, because you have to pay attention to so many more things than what you're used to. And there's a lot more flags actually that, would come into play. Like, you got your emergency vehicles, and I didn't even know that this, like, a standing white flag was a thing. Like, I had no idea that meant that there was a slow car on the track, right, coming up. Like, that isn't a thing in iRacing. It's not a thing in oval racing. That means last lap is the only thing that flag has ever meant to me. And so, having somebody explain like when they're going to throw these flags, why they're going to throw these flags, and like, obviously I know where to look for them, but just getting in the habit of like looking there. That's probably the biggest like learning curve. And that was the biggest thing in comp school that was like good for me to experience and learn, because that was definitely what made me, I guess, uncomfortable going in.
Yeah, I'm sure in the iRacing world, you're getting used to the whole side by side. You're getting used to leapfrogging people. It's a little different in person, I'm sure, but you understand the concepts. It's not, there's nothing new is coming to you.
No, 100%.
How'd your Sunday go?
So Sunday went really well, but actually I'm going to back it up to Saturday. So, comp school, we were supposed to race the first race on Sunday, but the last drill of the day, which the drills were not my concern at all. That, like you were saying, like it's not really anything new coming to me there. There were some things that were a little bit new. Like for me, my heel toe technique, because I've driven manual in the street for so long, is I just put like a couple toes on the brake pedal and then I just roll my foot over to the throttle. That does not work in the Spec E30 because you press the brake down too far, then you end up clipping the gas pedal. And the harder you press the brake, the more you clip the gas pedal. And so your braking zones become like 100 feet longer, and you don't really know why because you're not pressing the gas hard enough to hear it. You're just not slowing down.
Right.
So that was like one of the big things that I had to like train myself not to do. And it was part of the reason I was like kind of, not skittish in the brake zones, but like not attacking the corner because I felt like that was a habit I had to break. But in the last drill, I was out there with Jack Cabetto, and he had a race that day, obviously, the Saturday race. And so he's like, I can't do the entire drill, but I can do like 3 laps. So we're going to go down into turn 1. Just let me get side by side, and then we'll race it out from there. So we go down into turn 1, and, it's 1 and 2 at Summit. Mm-hmm. And like, we're even on the brakes. We're sticking it side by side through 1, through 2, through 3, through 4. And then I cleared him in 5. And I was like, we just raced half this track side by side. And we just kept going at it for a couple laps. But eventually he just waved, gave me a thumbs up. And later that afternoon, they were like asking me if I wanted to race the race. So the Saturday race, we were not really prepared to race. I had no intention of racing it that day. We had way too much weight in the car. And it was kind of one of those deals where it was like, we threw all this lead in just to find out where our weight was going to be after comp school. And we were way over, but we didn't really have time to like take it out. So we just said, you know what? The opportunity to race on Saturday is great. I got to start last anyway. Like there's no pressure on me. Just get, some standing start experience and like basically a free race experience that I wasn't going to get otherwise. So we go out there, drive all the way up to, we were passing 4/3, and the guy gets completely sideways, like fishtailing back and forth down the straightaway. I think it took 4 corrections, and he was like at 12 o'clock correcting. Like he was going full way around the wheel. Obviously, I'm first on the scene. I have to lift. I cannot be the sim racer that just full throttled into this crash. So I didn't want to take that sim racer mentality because there's no question. On the sim, you see this guy wrecking? Keep your foot in and pray.
Right.
That's the mentality.
Yeah, there's no body shop waiting for you in the sim.
No, so I don't want to be that guy that goes out there and wads up a car, even though it's like technically not my fault. If he loses it into me, it wouldn't have been smart by me. That's just what it comes down to. Like,
why ruin your first race weekend by taking a chance that you didn't need to take?
And what does it even matter? At the end of the day, like, why would I put myself in that situation? So I had to like switch that part of my brain off because obviously like the habit would be to just go. But the guy behind me had the opportunity to not lift because the moment I lifted off the gas is the moment he saved it. And then immediately we were 3 wide. So that wasn't much I could do there to finish third, unfortunately, because it's the very end of the race. But it was a great experience because I got to race around people. So when we went into Sunday, and this is what we were about to talk about, like Sunday, now I've done it all already. Like this isn't new. I got to sleep on it. I got a good night's sleep on Saturday night. And the standing start I was now comfortable with. Like I still had to start last, but I had raced side by side with enough people the day before that when we got that next green flag, like I was comfortable getting after it, going into one and just, picking people off one by one. And eventually I was fighting for the lead. Like I never really lost sight of them, which was, I think, the mental boost I needed. Like I could see the next target at all times and I could see where I was gaining. And I just kept, chugging away at it. And I think I learned a lot in that first race because I was able to kind of judge what I was doing with what other people were doing and seeing like where I was gaining. Because I've really never raced Summit Point. Like that was the first time I'd ever been there in real life. And even on the sim, Summit Point's not a track that I've just like sat down and just grinded. I just kind of know the layout, And so kind of getting to, reinforce what I think I know with what I'm seeing on the track and like figuring out the line, this works just as well. And I know I'm not pushing the car as hard. Let me do this. I was able to like kind of put those pieces together as the race went on. And by the time I got to the lead, like I was getting faster at that point.
Yeah. And what was your finish on
I finished first.
Sunday morning?
Sunday morning, and then again on Sunday afternoon. I had to run it back from last again, but it was a good time. I learned a lot.
Yeah, you will learn a lot, especially with the Spec E30 guys, but it's rare for a rookie to come out, get your plastic trophy. You got a plastic third place trophy Saturday, right?
No, so on Saturday, to be clear, I had to lift.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
so I ended up fifth.
But still, it's very rare for a rookie to come out, pass comp school, and then put a first place in at all that weekend. And the ones that I know that have done it are very good drivers. So it speaks a lot to what you've been able to do with the sim, and then also apply it into real life now. So.
I appreciate that. And that was a surprise to me too. I did not come into the weekend expecting to be, I wanted a podium. That was like my goal, but the win was really not on my radar.
Well, Jack's no slouch because he came from the back at the national championship. So if you're eventually able to beat him, good to go. So he better hurry up, figure some stuff out. But awesome. Let's sort of transition. I want to hear some more, if you have any more. What sim skills or habits maybe translate into real life?
So this is something that I'm going to be, kind of feeling out over the next year probably. There are some braking techniques that, while they may not be perfect in real life yet, because I haven't quite done that yet, in multi-class racing, one of the things that I've learned when you've got faster cars overtaking is how you get on the brakes, where you get on the brakes, to kind of indicate, hey, one, I'm giving it to you, but two, I don't want to give up a lot of time on the back end. So there were some things I was doing on the brakes to kind of set myself up to get a better exit, and hoping that the guy in front of me gets screwed up by this guy as well, and try to just mitigate any loss, because I'm being very predictable. I'm hey, I'm braking early so that you can dive it down the inside. This is your corner. I see you. Take it, and then I can just file in behind them and not lose much time. That was kind of what I was doing, and I felt like that was one of the biggest things that translated, because I feel like in traffic on the sim, it's where you can make up time. Traffic can giveth and taketh away.
Absolutely.
But you can definitely, turn that more in your favor when you're predictable, and that played right into my hand actually in the first race. That was how I got by Chris Cabetto. He was racing one of the Spec 3s through 7, 8, 9 at Summit, and I just watched it happen. I just backed off, basically got a run to him as it was happening, because I could have just been all over his bumper and followed him through, but I gave myself a gap, and then as soon as I realized that, okay, he's going to clear, and I'm going to get clear too, I just floored it, had the slightest bit of a run, and by the time I got out of 9, had a massive run.
Right.
And really, there was not much he could do other than defend as hard as possible, because the run was coming. I was going one way or the other.
Yeah, I think you put a reel out with that, or SimSeats did. And he gave you the book minimum. And you were like, I'm here, I'm taking it. And, you're going to give me my car width, my 3/4 car width, and this is where I'm going to be. And I'm not leaving you. And most rookies don't do that. So
it was definitely I felt like I was being tested a little bit there, because as we approached the bridge, I don't know if I had the tires in the grass, but they were about as close to the grass as you can get. And we were literally door to door at this moment.
Yeah. From your video, it looked like you were at least hanging over a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
It was pretty cool. That was I felt like the confidence thing that he was testing. He's is he going to go for it? Because he didn't even let me back over. He did exactly what I would do on the sim. Somebody called it the sim racer pinch. If you go to the inside down the straightaway, if somebody's going defensive, you run the middle of the track, right? To give neither option's great when you do that to somebody. That's what he did to me. Is he was okay, you want to go to the inside? I'm not going to let you back over. You better be comfortable entering from the line. And he literally did not move until the braking zone, which you can't really move once you're, in that. If you're on the inside, you're going to get the slightest arc, but you're basically entering from as low as possible.
Yeah, he gave you enough room to give you the angle to come in, but that was about it.
That was it. Yeah. So, I think what he was anticipating potentially was that I was going to overshoot it. But I'm like, I don't think it'd be a very good idea for me to just launch it off into the sand trap in front of the guy that's got to, evaluate me today.
Right.
So, I was very happy to be able to put that corner together. But when I looked up in the mirror and I was clear, I was like, dang, I got a shot here. Because I thought, he would be able to cross me over on that move. Because inside into 10 from down there is probably not as good of an angle as I would have liked. But that move worked out pretty well. And that's one of the things from sim racing that, I'm very familiar with, like, defensive driving or like offensive driving when you're in, that position. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll put you in as bad of a position as you can and just like, you want it? How bad do you want it? Right. We'll give you the lane, just, you're going to have to like work for it. And I felt like that was the exact situation he put me in. It was just like, if you feel like you can enter from there, let's see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's at turn 10. There's so much exit room that if you ride it all the way out, he's not in any better position because he can't get to the apex if you're there, right? Mm-hmm. So he's letting you come out as far as you can and get on the gas as far as the track will let you. Mm-hmm. And while he's compromised entry, you still get your exit. So
yeah, that was just definitely did not want to overshoot that corner.
Oh no,
I felt like I was in a situation where when I first got on the brakes, I felt like he backed off a little bit because when I looked up, like by the time I was at the center, I was clear. So I was like, "Where's the cross? Like, is it coming?" Yeah. Because that's what I was expecting, but I was able to use all that runoff because I realized I was clear so soon. So I still had a decent run coming out of there. I think that was the difference for me.
Yeah, he probably left you room because he thought you were going to cook it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I was like, I don't think I can cook it today. Like, that would be really bad right now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you didn't grind Summit Point in the sim. How many times do you think you've driven it, or did you drive it to sort of learn the course?
So I've known the course for a while. Like, I know the layout. I kind of know the line. I ran MX5 Cup with a bunch of the Spec Miata guys, SCCA drivers, like probably 3 weeks before the race. Not because we were going there, but because the series went there that I was racing in. So the only real experience that I have is from like racing other competitive drivers that have raced the track. I didn't like go through and study it. Just like, am I their pace? Okay. I feel like what I'm doing works. When I get to real life, I don't want to, have bad habits and have like worked on this track by myself and just like, I've got it right. I've done like 100 laps here. This is what I do. Like, I didn't want to build any, this is what I do kind of habits. I wanted to be comfortable with the track. So when I got there in real life, if my line wasn't exactly right, I could adapt. Because VIR, for example, there's a lot of corners that it's like, this is where you turn in. If you don't turn in here, it's wrong, basically. Your angle's not going to work or not going to work well. There's a lot of corners where like you got to be pretty much on it or you're off the track. And, I wanted to make sure that like I didn't build any wrong habits since it's not a track that I'm as familiar with. And the people I was racing, they weren't like coaching me. I was chasing them.
Right.
So, that's, I think pretty much what I do for most of these tracks. And unless I'm like sitting down week after week, like I've done with VIR, to master it in different cars, like you kind of just have to pick up what you can, get comfortable with the track, and then learn it when you get there.
So you prefer to be in the competitive environment to make sure that when you're learning the track or learning the lines, you're with people who are fast.
I think that's actually the biggest thing. I may not be explaining it the best way, but like it's not as much for me about like learning the preferred line as it is being competitive enough, whether you have every single corner figured out or not, you found a way to get through there. Mm-hmm. And if somebody's like, hey, if you take this line in this corner, it's a little bit better. Like then you have like, another option. But I feel like you get more comfortable in racing situations and you find like the passing opportunities because I knew exactly where to defend at Summit Point. because I have raced it on the sim enough to know, like, if somebody goes down your inside in 1, it's not over, because you can hold the outside in 1 and 2, and then you've got 3, and I'd say you have preferred when you get to 4 and 5. Like, you should be able to complete the pass in that position. And I felt like, that kind of confidence just from racing the track is the biggest thing. Same thing in the Coke Series. When we go to a track in the Coke Series, whether I've ever raced it in a sports car before, all of a sudden I feel like I know this track, to like a 90% mastery level. Because I've done so many laps and gotten like so precise with where I'm turning in, where I'm braking, that when I slow it down and go run something, that's purpose built for road course, all of a sudden, like, the flow makes sense to me. I've already done it enough to be like able to fine tune from there when I'm racing against people that like truly know exactly where they need to be. I feel like it just sets you up a little bit better to be able to, adapt. You're not having a full, you're not having to learn everything all at once.
Right. And I think it gives you twofold. You learn the track, but you learn the racecraft for that track. And I think that's invaluable when you're trying to translate it. I think using sim racing, you can practice, especially when you're racing against competitive folks, you can practice your racecraft, right? Over-unders or whatever. But when you're learning the track, you need to learn those passing zones. And that it's, especially if you've never been there and you hadn't been to Summit. So
exactly.
You definitely got it.
Well, that's actually, so, what you were just saying as well, like at VIR, there's some sections, it's not knowing where the passing zones are. It's knowing where they aren't a lot of times. It's like, sometimes it's, you can pass here, but why? Like, what are you doing? Because if you pass here, one, you're giving up a ton of time. You're bringing everybody to you or letting them walk away from you. And really, you're just putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And understanding like how that usually pans out is really good, because you don't get that single car testing. You don't even get that AI racing. You're going to get that from racing people that also understand.
Right. Yeah. It's good to know that you're not going to get that with AI, because I know a lot of folks that'll just put on AI. But if it's not that advanced yet, then they need to start getting in the leagues and stuff. The thing with AI is it gets you comfortable with racing around people, but I don't feel like they always behave like people are going to. Like, you can adjust their aggressiveness and you can adjust like the kind of moves they're going to make, but you're a little bit more likely to see what people are actually thinking in these moments, because sometimes like, the AI might be able to overtake you going up to the S's, and maybe it does. But like, if I'm smart, I'm just going to wait and I'm going to get you on the backstretch, because I'm not going to wait for you to just swap me coming out of Oak Tree. Like, I'm just going to wait until I just blow your doors off going into roller coaster, and that's the kind of move. Like, if you just think about it, like, why would I overtake, in that section if I can just wait a second? Like, I'm in a strategic position. It'd be like Daytona, passing going into the bus stop, when really all you got to do is pass coming out of turn 4. For sure. So let's transition a little bit. I want to talk about, what are your future goals and plans? I mean, you have an E30 now, so, the world's your oyster here. So I think, obviously, now that I have the E30, it makes sense to, run a full season, hopefully be able to run nationals next year and like see where that takes me. But also, like, if I get opportunities this year to run other things, or next year, 2025, to run other classes, other cars, I want to be able to take those. Like, this is square one, but I want to build from this. Like, I'm not trying to make it a hobby. I'm trying to make it a career. So, with sim racing and with the experience that I've got in higher class cars, like, Spec E30 kind of slows it all down. But, I want to be able to take that from there, and whether that means IMSA. I mean, shoot, if I got an opportunity to run something, on an oval track again, run, something NASCAR, that'd be great. I'm not going to turn down anything like that. Like, obviously, whichever route it goes, I feel like I have a ton of oval experience, but the road course side is where I feel like I'm probably going to end up. And I feel like there's an opportunity there for me. So you said nationals next year, which happens to be at Ozarks. Which sim software has Ozarks in it right now? So it's interesting you say that, because
I did not know of any that did, but I got the opportunity to drive on this track, not like in real life, but virtually, relatively recently while I was in Kansas City. And that was a eye-opener that there's going to be a serious home team advantage because that is a very technical track.
Technical, long.
Yeah.
Lots of corners.
If you think VIR is technical,
yes,
Ozarks is much more. Like I drove that track and I feel like I probably have 90% of it memorized, but like it would take a lot of like learning for sure. And that's a course where I feel like you're going to need to see what people actually do there to know how it races, because there's not, iRacing doesn't have it. And as far as I know, there's no stock game software that has it. So even if you go look at, Assetto Corsa, I think there might be a mod out there somewhere.
There is a mod.
Yeah, but there's nothing that, to my knowledge, that you can just like go get on stock content. And so other than that, I drove it on Assetto, and that's the only thing I've ever driven it on. But it was an eye opener for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's listeners of the show that said that the sim racers are going to be the ones that win, and I think it has. If the people in wherever, I can't even know, NASA, Mid America, or whatever the region is called, if they're coming to nationals, they have the advantage for sure. But it's 1,000 miles away for most of us East Coasters to get there. So practicing in real life is going to be the week of.
Yep. No,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, be prepared to get into your data and get ready for that.
Hey, the good thing is now I at least know where the corners are. So I'm not going to come over one of these hills like I've done like 20 times while I was testing and be like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. I came
Just
over a
bit it
hill
in the
and it
tires.
went left. I came over the other hill, it went right. Or
Oh, I just came over the hill and did not brake enough and went straight.
oh yeah, that's no good.
Yeah.
But there's massive terrain changes. There's lots of blind corners. You have to know where you're going, and I think it's going to be a challenge. So yeah, don't forget to put in your sim time for that.
100%.
90% isn't 100. So awesome. So you're going to run at least a season in E30, right? So would you buy something new? Would you go to a faster class on your own?
So I don't really know what the best next step is. That's something I'm still kind of, navigating, because it's going to depend. Like, I don't think I will be personally buying anything to the next level. But the big thing is like, if I'm bringing sponsorship, what is going to be beneficial to the sponsor? Like, am I going to be able to, do media with this car, and do other things that like would be beneficial to a sponsor? Like, that's the kind of, route I want to go. Like, I don't want it to be just a one-off where you just spent like your budget for the year basically to go run one race and get nothing from it. Like, I want to be able to bring some value from whatever I'm doing. So I don't really know what exactly that will be. It kind of depends on what opportunities come my way. The future goal for me, I would love to run something like GT4 at Indy, or like a track that I'm familiar with. VIR, I know they run there too. Like something like that where, it's a course that I'm extremely familiar with in a, higher class car, something that would be like really good experience. I don't know when that opportunity would come, but that's kind of where I want to go with it. Because that's kind of end goal, is to be running, high level sports cars, or, if NASCAR is down the road as well. Like, I'd love to get a road course start in a NASCAR. That's a whole nother level of, road course racing. I feel like that takes a whole, like, it's way more car control, and like, there's just a lot of like, I don't know how to describe driving a brick on wheels, but it's sure as heck not like sports cars. They're quite a bit different.
Yeah. No ABS. Their tires are ever changing and evolving. Yep. They're more of a challenge than a lot of people thought they were going to be. So
yeah,
that'll be interesting.
We'll see where it goes.
For sure. Yeah, I think you're in a good spot right now with the E30. You're putting down good lap times. It's low consumables, so you can get your track time in. Apparently, other than bending wheels on the regular, but yeah. So you want to be in a low consumable car in a highly competitive class, which it is. Even at Ozarks, I think you're going to get a pretty decent turnout there. I know it was a heck of a race last year. So, yeah, I think you're in the right class for now. And, opportunities will come. Just keep your start networking, walk around the paddock and meet some people. So, but awesome, man.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, by the way, is like the community, when I was at Summit Point, it was great. Like, I'm not familiar with that. Like in oval racing, I feel like there's like, the only friends you have, you brought with you.
Right. And that's your crew and your hauler.
Yeah. And that was not the case at Summit. So that was, refreshing for sure to be able to go out there and, talk with a bunch of people and just get to know people. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. They're not going to give you their trade secrets anyway, but they may hand you an adult beverage or something and you can talk. Right. So that's awesome. So Garrett, where can people find you on the internets?
So I do Twitch streaming, like pretty much on a nightly basis. So it's just Garrett Manes. It's my name, 1 on Twitch. So that's 2 R's and 2 T's and Manes. And then same thing for Instagram. I do a bunch of reels. Sometimes it's like clips from my stream and stuff like that. But you can find some probably coming up, some onboard footage and, some clips from the races. But that's on Instagram. And then I believe it's also the same on Twitter, X. Okay. So I try to keep it consistent, make it easy to find me.
Oh, that's good. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.